The house I grew up in was old, but not in a charming historical way. It was just old. Built in the late 60s, it had that drab, forgotten look, with faded siding and windows that always seemed a little cloudy. My parents bought it for a steal when I was 5, and for most of my childhood, it was just home. The weird noises, the cold spots, the feeling of being watched, we explained it all away. Old houses settle, drafts get in, and an overactive imagination can play tricks on you. It wasn't until I was 16 that I realized the house wasn't just settling, it was waiting. It started in my bedroom. I had the attic room, a converted space with a low, slanted ceiling and a single window that overlooked the overgrown backyard. One night, I was trying to fall asleep, tossing and turning, when I heard a faint scratching sound. It seemed to be coming from the corner of the room, right where the ceiling met the wall. I sat up, listening. Scratch, scratch, pause. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It sounded like a mouse, so I thumped the wall a few times, hoping to scare it off. The scratching stopped. I lay back down, relieved, and eventually drifted off to sleep. The next night, it was back. This time, it was louder, more insistent. Scratch, scratch, dragged, like something was pulling itself along inside the wall. I got out of bed and pressed my ear against the drywall. It was cold, unnaturally so. The scratching was right there, on the other side. A shiver went down my spine that had nothing to do with the temperature. It wasn't a mouse. The sound was too rhythmic, too deliberate. I spent the rest of the night with my lamp on, huddled under the covers, until the first light of dawn finally silenced the noise. I told my dad about it the next morning. He was a practical man, a mechanic who believed in tangible problems with tangible solutions. "It's squirrels, probably," he said, not looking up from his newspaper. "Trying to get in for the winter. I'll check the roof this weekend." But it wasn't the weekend yet, and the nights were getting longer. The scratching evolved. It wasn't just in the corner anymore. It moved. I'd hear it above my bed, then by the door, then under the floorboards. It was as if something was methodically exploring the boundaries of my room, testing the structure. Then came the whispers. At first, it was just a faint murmur, indistinguishable from the wind outside. But as the days went on, it became clearer. It was a low, raspy voice, and it was speaking my name. "Daniel." It would hiss from the vents. "Daniel." It would sigh from behind the walls. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it, that I was just sleep-deprived and stressed from school. But one night, the voice said something new. I was lying in bed, paralyzed with fear, listening to the scratching and the hissing, when the voice whispered, clear as day, right beside my ear, "I see you." My eyes shot open. The room was empty. The scratching had stopped. The only sound was my own heart hammering against my ribs. I didn't sleep in my room after that. I started crashing on the living room sofa, telling my parents my back was sore from my old mattress. They didn't question it. They were too busy dealing with their own strange occurrences. My mom complained that things were going missing from the kitchen. A specific knife, a box of salt, a dish towel, only to reappear in bizarre places, like under her pillow or inside the washing machine. My dad's tools started vanishing from his locked workshop in the garage, turning up rusted and bent in the backyard. The house felt different. The air was heavy, oppressive. The cold spots were no longer just spots. They were entire rooms that would suddenly drop in temperature for no reason. We stopped having guests over. Friends who came by would make excuses to leave early, complaining of headaches or a sudden feeling of unease. The house was isolating us, turning our home into a prison. The breaking point came a few weeks later. It was a Saturday, and my parents had gone out for a rare dinner, leaving me home alone. I was watching a movie on the sofa, trying to ignore the constant creaks and groans of the house. Around 10 o'clock, I heard a loud bang from upstairs. It sounded like something heavy had been dropped. My first thought was my bedroom. Against my better judgment, I grabbed a heavy flashlight from the kitchen drawer and started up the stairs, my heart pounding with every step. The upstairs hallway was dark and cold. The door to my bedroom was slightly ajar, a sliver of darkness in the dim light. I pushed it open slowly. The room was a wreck. My mattress was torn open, stuffing pulled out and scattered across the floor. My posters were ripped from the walls. My desk was overturned, books and papers strewn everywhere. And in the center of the chaos, scrawled on the floor in what looked like dirt or ash, was a single, crudely drawn eye. I backed out of the room, my hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. As I turned to run, I heard it. A slow, heavy footstep from the other end of the hall, coming from my parents' bedroom. I froze, my blood turning to ice. I was supposed to be alone. The footstep came again, closer. A floorboard creaked under an immense weight. I couldn't move. I could only listen as the slow, deliberate steps shuffled down the hallway towards me. A shadow began to stretch from my parents' doorway, a tall, distorted figure that didn't look human. It was too thin, its limbs too long. Then the smell hit me, the smell of damp earth and decay. The scratching sound started again, not from the walls this time, but from the approaching shadow. It was the sound of long, ragged fingernails dragging against the wooden floor. I finally found my voice and screamed, a raw, terrified sound. I scrambled down the stairs, falling the last few steps, and bolted for the front door. I didn't stop running until I was halfway down the block, standing under a streetlight, gasping for air. When my parents got home, they found me sitting on the curb, shaking. I tried to explain what happened, the wrecked room, the figure in the hall. My dad, ever the skeptic, went inside to check. He came back a few minutes later, his face pale. He said my room was untouched. Everything was exactly as I had left it. There was no mess, no torn mattress, no eye drawn on the floor. He said I must have had a nightmare, a vivid waking dream. But I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. The smell of decay lingered in the hallway for weeks. We moved out a month later. We couldn't sell the house. No one would even make an offer after a viewing. We just packed our things and left, abandoning it to whatever lived within its walls. I still have nightmares about that house, about the scratching and the whispers. Sometimes when it's quiet and I'm about to fall asleep, I can still hear a faint, raspy voice hissing my name. And I know, with a certainty that chills me to my core, that whatever was in that house remembers me, and it's still waiting. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the next one.